Hello, welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger on April 4th, 2021, Easter Sunday. I hope everyone had a good Easter. Uh, Despite the pandemic, I hope that you guys managed to have some fun, spend some time with family, enjoy each other's company, and appreciate that you are still there for each other. A couple of days ago, I picked up the phone and decided to call my friend Wayne and his wife Ethical to check up on them to see how they're doing. Now, the last time I spoke to Wayne was back in January, so about 2, almost 3 months ago. I remember our last conversation because Wayne was sounding rather hoarse. He sounded like he got bronchitis. Sounded like he got a really bad cold, and definitely not his usual chipper, outspoken, loud, opinionated self. I asked him, uh, was he okay? Um, I was afraid that maybe he got COVID or something. At the time, he told me that everything's okay. He went to this naturopath and got some kind of supplement, and the supplement messed up his throat. That's all. And he would get his voice back in a few days, and he told me to call him back in a couple of weeks, and then we can have a proper conversation. As so often is the case, a couple of weeks turned into a couple of months before I finally got a hold of them and called them only to find out from Ethical that Wayne has been diagnosed with late stage throat cancer. He cannot talk now. He can barely even swallow. They are going to implant him with a feeding tube, so he's not going to starve himself to death. The doctor said with the feeding tube, he can get maybe another 5 months out of his life at most. He is 82 years old. Life is full of ironies sometimes. Sometimes I wonder if there is a God, if there is a Buddha, if there is some form of alternate power up there. Are they just putting all these ironies in our life as a big joke? Maybe someone up there having a good laugh at our expense. Someone like Wayne, who spent his life being a very, well, let me say, extremely vocal, very articulate individual. He was a social worker, he was a counselor, he was an army sergeant, he was a highway construction foreman, he even was a hippie for a while. He a big, outspoken supporter of environmental rights. And even in his old age, he spent his daily free time volunteering, teaching new immigrant English, and offering free counseling to those who need it. He spent most of his last 20 years living almost like a monk, very, very healthy, ride his bike up and down the mountain every day for exercise, uh, get up 5 in the morning to get on the rowing machine, eat nothing but organic, natural food, very little meat, a lot of produce and fruit, one avocado a day. He basically lived like that because he's always afraid that when he get older, his heart was going to get him because apparently he had weak heart, or maybe his lung would get him for all the marijuana he's smoked. So isn't it a big irony then that it turned out not be his lung, and not be his heart, and not even his stomach, because he does have very sensitive stomach, but it's going to be his throat that get him in the end. And it's even a bigger irony that a guy like him, who is so opinionated, so good with words, would in the end pass away unable to speak, unable to make himself understood. Almost as ironic as when I made this last week's Music Monday, I was doing a tribute to remember another old friend who passed away, my friend John. At the time, I had no idea that I was going to lose another old friend so soon. Wayne and I, we go back a long time, like most of my friends tend to. When I was 17 years old, I decided it was time to go. It was time to move out of my home, move away from my family, to branch out, strike out on my own, to be independent. So prior to making the big move, I contacted the youth support agency, that like the social services that provide transitional support for young people between high school and college, and when they want to move out and stuff like that. So I contacted youth support agency, and at the time they didn't have any support worker for me, but they did have someone they said was a volunteer that might be interested in starting forming some kind of a deal with me. So, well, I figured it's better than nothing. So I showed up at the agency, and there was this older, I wouldn't say elderly, but even back then, he was uh, uh, in his 50s, almost 60 years old, I believe. Actually, back then he was 67, I think, something like that. Anyway, he was kind of old. And that was Wayne. That was my first meeting with Wayne when I was 17. Um, just starting out to learn the ways of the world. And Wayne told me that he was looking for people that he could practice his newly acquired counseling degree on. He just recently graduated from uh, counseling, behavioral counseling, and he wanted uh, some subject that he can work with, work for, so he can clock in some practicum time. So I told him, I said, well, I'm not really looking for a counselor, but I'm looking for someone who can uh, give me support when I'm going through this transitional period. I'm going to be moving out on my own, and as you can tell, being a blind person, this is going to be a big step. So it would make me feel a lot better to have someone I know I can call if I run into situations that I don't know how to deal with, things I don't know how to do. So a bargain was struck. I agreed to be his guinea pig for him to practice his counseling skills on me, and he agreed to be my support person, my handyman, my driver, my eyes when I needed a pair of eyes to help me read things, stuff like that. And so, kind of a dubious but rough partnership was formed. Outside of my training at the university, I learned everything I know today regarding psychology, social work, and counseling from Wayne while I was as a guinea pig for his counseling techniques. I was learning, observing, asking questions. And later, when I was sure that I was going to go into that field, I asked him all the questions I had from things we did at the college or at the university and during classes and different opinions, different theories. He was almost like my professor away from the university. What started out as a simple arrangement, him counseling me uh, and be my support person, turned into a friendship that lasted from when I was 17 to now when I'm 39. During this time, Wayne and I have gotten a lot closer. We have went on many adventures, hiking, fishing, went to the aquarium for a day out and a lot of dinners and lunches, a lot of laughs. And he taught me so much about life. He told me so many stories, entertaining me with stories such as when he was uh, in the army and he almost got bombed by his own people, and the time when he was in his orchard and he noticed that there was a beaver that would show up and gnaw on the tree every so often. And just like a grouchy old coot, Wayne got up every morning, waited quietly in the orchard until finally the third day the beaver showed up and paddling its way up the creek that ran through the middle of the orchard, and Wayne jumped out of the bushes and grabbed the beaver by the tail and held it underwater and gave it such a hard spanking that that beaver never came back to his orchard after that. Ah, just so many stories, so many memories he shared with me wisdoms from the early days of social work, being a social worker, shared with me the visions he saw of life and death when he used to be on LSD and all kind of crazy, crazy drug during his hippie time. Many times he would share with me his dream diary. He keeps a diary where every time he wakes up from a dream, before he even go to the washroom, he would roll over, grab his diary from the bedside table, and jot down all the details he would remember in his dream. And sometimes he would bring out his diary and read some of these crazy, crazy dreams to me and want to know what are some of my thoughts are regarding the dreams. Do my thoughts coincide with his? And so on and so on. If John was that grouchy, crazy, uh, 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 very upbeat grandfather for me, and Lenny was the kind, mild-mannered, uh, but sometimes befuddled grandfather, then Wayne was my wise man. Wayne was that grandfather that taught me the most. He's to me like Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, and Alfred to Batman. Knowing that I'm going to lose this good friend in at the most another 5 months make me feel really sad. But at the same time, it is a clean kind of sadness. When I lost John, when I lost Lenny, there were a lot of regrets because I knew neither of them were happy in the end. I knew neither of them were ready. I knew that I wish could be by their side when they left. I didn't even know when they were departing this world. But at least this time, I know this is going to happen. Furthermore, through our many, many conversations, especially in the last year, I have come to know that Wayne is ready. If anything, he is probably happy that he's finally going to go on this new journey, new adventure, something totally new, maybe quite exciting, maybe a bit scary. But one thing I know about Wayne, he is bored with being old. He has been bored for a few years now. He wants to go, not because he wants to be at peace, but he wants to find out what's on the other side. And I think in the end, a lot of us can't really ask for more. I think when we can actually say to ourselves, I have done everything I want to do in this lifetime, and I'm ready for the next adventure, then I think we have been very, very successful. Thank you for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Music Monday. For now, have a good night.